I want to start off by actually sharing some bad news with you. That bad news is that there's some new research in, and that new research shows that, oh, excuse me, there we go. I want to make sure I can see your chats over here as well. So the new research done by a man named Eli Finkel shows that marriages on average are decreasing in happiness over time. So your average marriage gets worse over time. The longer you're married, the less happy, the less fulfilled, the less at peace you become. And the other part of the statistic is that the percentage of people who rate themselves in a very happy marriage is also on the decline. So this is bad news. It means, statistically speaking, the likelihood of you being in a marriage or in a relationship that gets stronger, more vibrant, more passionate, that increases in connection and trust and fulfillment and satisfaction over time is pretty low, and it's getting lower. But the good side of that statistic is that the happiest couples in the world, couples who have shared values, shared goals, shared dreams, who have deep, lasting trust and passion. They have shared hobbies, and they laugh together and flirt together late into their lives. They have that special spark, that special something that I think everybody wants in their relationship. Those couples are happier than any couples in history. So if you are kind of giggling at some of these pictures, if you would like to have a relationship that kind of reflects the vibe that you see in some of these pictures that I'm sharing, just type me in the chat. Let's get some engagement going here. Make sure you're staying awake and staying engaged. So what I want to talk to you about right now is, what is their secret? When you see couples like this that are happy late into their lives, that have, they're going on date nights and you can tell they're just like holding hands and looking into each other's eyes. They're still making out. They're still flirting with each other. It seems like they just get along. They have that special something. What's their secret? And that's kind of what I want to talk to you about tonight. But I want to start to describe this concept, what it is that these couples do differently. I want to start by telling you about house shopping. So my wife and I recently bought our first home. And when we were house shopping, something really interesting happened. And I'd love to hear if you've had an experience like this as well. But what happened is, you could be scrolling through the listings online, and every so often you come across a house and it just makes you stop and you go, oh my gosh, that house is amazing. I want that house. That is my dream house. And the cool thing about a dream house is everybody's dream house is different. Sometimes you fall in love with the home because it has an amazing kitchen or tons of natural light. Sometimes you look at that house and you're like, wow, the view from that house is incredible. And sometimes you look at the house and you're like, wow, that house is the view that is incredible. Sometimes they have a huge garage for, maybe you're like a craft person, or you really like doing construction. Maybe you have lots of cars. Maybe it has a theater room and you really love movies, but typically the house has something that just like, it flips a switch in your brain and you go, oh my gosh, that's my dream house. If you've ever had that experience, type like a number 1 in the chat. If you've ever maybe you were walking with your partner through the neighborhood and you just saw a house and you're like, that house is gorgeous. So the cool thing about house shopping like this is that you don't have to be a house expert to know a dream home when you see one. You see it and something inside you just clicks, and you know that home is your dream home. Now, the interesting thing about dream homes also, and I'll just tell you from my personal experience, I'm not a very capable handyman, I guess is a polite way of saying it. If you were to drop me off on an empty lot and just give me a giant pile of supplies and tools, if you gave me wood and concrete and sheetrock and carpet and all sorts of other like really useful things that would go into building a house, and hammers and nails and all that stuff, and you just left me there for a year and you came back, I guarantee you I would have built something, but I also guarantee you that the thing that I built would look absolutely nothing like my dream home. Why is that? Why do I have really great taste? Why do I recognize a dream home when I see one, but I don't have the capacity to create it myself? Well, the reason is because knowing what you want and being able to create it are two very different things. I think you guys can see the parallel that I'm drawing here. The same is true for relationships. The way most people's relationships go is you meet somebody, you fall in love, you start building this relationship with them, you start building this life with them, and you kind of knew what you wanted. You had a vision for your dream relationship when you signed up for it. You were looking for good communication, affection, passion, honesty, lots of laughter, adventure, some security and stability, some predictability so you could feel safe. And I could just go on and list things here. But the problem is that at some point, maybe it's months, maybe it's years, maybe it's decades into your relationship, you kind of take a step back and you realize that like you have this uncomfortable realization. And that realization is that what you wanted and what you got don't really look exactly the same. You might take a step back and go, something's not right in our relationship right now. This isn't what I signed up for. This isn't what I thought marriage would be like. Maybe you're not giving each other the benefit of the doubt anymore. Maybe you're arguing a lot about stupid things, or you've developed a short temper, or maybe you notice your partner acting really selfish all the time, or you're starting to get sarcastic and dismissive or condescending with each other. Maybe you're micromanaging every aspect of your partner's life because you don't trust them to follow through on their commitments anymore. Maybe you become overly critical, or you get really defensive and you struggle to take responsibility for your actions when you screw up or you hurt your partner's feelings. Maybe you shut down and tune your partner out. Maybe you storm out of the house when you're upset and you don't tell your partner where you're going or when you'll be back, or you call each other names. You get the idea of what I'm talking about here. But the point I'm trying to make is that what you wanted when you first got together, what you wanted when you first got married, and what you've got right now are not the same. So you have great taste, but you have poor execution. And when you're in this space of wanting something and realizing that you don't have it, or thinking that things were going to be one way and then realizing that they're not, most people, the words that they use to describe that is that they have communication issues. We have crappy communication. If you can relate to this, if maybe you're chuckling to yourself right now, maybe this is hitting a little close to home. Let's just type a me in the chat. I just want to make sure that I'm not out in the dark by myself here. Okay, I'm getting some me's, so people can relate to this. So some people think that you can fix these communication problems or this crappy communication by learning new strategies, like have you ever heard anybody say, you need to use that sentence, I feel blank when you do blank. You need to use a lot of I statements. Somebody, when we first got married, everybody walked up to us and said, hey, just got to remember, you can't go to bed angry. You got to resolve your issues before you go to bed. That's the key to good communication. Some people say, oh, you just got to let the little things go. And I've even heard, I've heard all sorts of advice. And I think these are all nice sentiments in theory, but first of all, they're not practical. And second of all, even when you do put things like that into practice, the communication problems don't go away. And that bothers me. I don't think people should be giving advice to fix problems that when you implement it, the problems stay. So we're not going to be talking about like special techniques or ways to manipulate your partner into having less communication. We're not going to be talking about, or less poor communication. We're not going to be talking about like strategies and techniques in this workshop. We're going to be talking about something much, much different that will help you improve your communication. So the real problem that I've noticed is that crappy communication is a symptom. Just like a door that maybe has recently stopped opening properly, it's starting to get jammed in its frame. That could mean that you have a problem with the foundation of your house. Communication issues are oftentimes a symptom of other issues in your relationship. So the point, I'm glad I'm going to read the thing on the slide because I think it's important. What I'm trying to hit home here is that you don't get a dream home just by improvising. You don't get a dream home by like building it on the fly. You don't get a dream home by like making it up as you go. You show up with a plan and you execute on the plan. And if you follow through on the plan and you get all your measurements right and you double and triple check everything before you move on to the next phase, your home ends up great. You don't end up with all these problems like cracked foundations and sloping walls and stuff like that. So you need a blueprint, you need a plan. And the same is true with your relationship. If you're having symptoms in your relationship that are indicating that there's something wrong, that means that you probably haven't been following a blueprint that has been proven to be successful. So today, what I want to do is I want to teach you part of my blueprint, what I believe is a great blueprint that you can follow in order to have an amazing relationship. And the part of the blueprint that I'm going to teach you today, once again, doesn't focus on skills. I'm going to teach you how to get to the source of your communication issues and address those, because if you address the source, like if you address a great thing to talk about. My wife is a nurse, and if somebody comes into the hospital and they're sick and they have a cough, you can't just treat the cough. You have to figure out what the actual disease is that they have. And if you treat the disease, the cough will go away. So we're going to work on treating the disease that causes poor communication. And the framework that I use is called the Epic Marriage Blueprint. It follows an acronym, FAMILY, and we're just going to focus on the first part today. It's F, and that F stands for friendship. And now I know some of you might be rolling your eyes and thinking, okay, we're friends, like we've been friends forever, but I want to get down to the nitty-gritties here. Friendship is like the roots of a tree. If your relationship was a tree, the friendship would be the roots. The roots go down into the ground. They suck up all these nutrients that they give to the rest of the tree. Not only that, but they keep the tree rooted in the ground. So if storms come or the winds pick up and things get, there's a chance that tree might get swept away. Those roots kind of hold it firm in the ground. So those roots are super important. They might be the most important part of the tree. If those roots wither and die, so does the tree. And your friendship is no different. Your friendship is like the roots of your relationship. It nourishes the rest of the other aspects of your relationship. And your friendship is what holds your relationship strong. It keeps you grounded and rooted when the trials and struggles of life come along. And when your friendship suffers, the rest of your relationship as a whole suffers. So what I'm going to do is break down what a friendship looks like today and show you how friendship issues are actually the cause of most communication issues. So your friendship consists of 3 parts or roots. Those root systems, I like to call them, are the first is I know you, the second is I like you, and the third one is I trust you. And if you look at think about any relationship that you've had with anybody in the past, think of a really good friend that you've had for years. And I guarantee you all 3 of those root systems are thriving and strong with that friend. We'll go into the details in a minute, but you know them really well. You know their likes and dislikes. You know what makes them angry, what stresses them out. You like spending time with them. You get excited to see them, and you trust them. Like you know they got your back when you're in a pinch. And when one of those aspects of your friendship starts to get weak, one of the first manifestations that one of those root systems is getting weak is you're going to start having communication issues. You're going to stop talking as much. They might start to feel like a stranger. We've all heard people talk about, roommate syndrome, feel like you're 2 ships passing in the night, feel like your partner is kind of a stranger and you just share the same bed. You start arguing more than is normal. You stop opening up to them and being vulnerable because you don't know if you can trust them anymore. And so I'm going to walk you through these 3 steps specifically, these 3 different aspects of your friendship. And I'm going to show you how each one of these things can be the actual source of your communication issues. And I'm going to give you some tips on how to strengthen them so that you can so you have less communication issues to deal with. If that sounds good, just hit the number 1 in the chat. I just want to make sure you're still with me here. Okay, tons of ones are popping in. I'm glad I got your attention. I'm glad you're still engaged. Thank you, everybody. I call you out by name, but the numbers are popping in, except Tim's hit a number 2. Thanks, Tim, for being unique and standing out. All right, let's start by talking about I know you. So your I know you root system. I know you means I know what you like, I know what you don't like. It means I know who are the most important people in your life right now. I know what's stressing you out. I know what you're proud of. I know what you're looking forward to. If I were to have $20 and be dropped off at a Target, I would know what thing I could go buy for you that when I brought it home, you'd be like, oh, you got me something. Like, the ins and outs of your partner. You know their heart, you know their mind, you know their inner world. That is so important in a marriage. I was talking to a couple recently, and they had kind of gotten into a routine. Their date nights were the same date nights every week. They would go to the same restaurant and the same general activity on the same night at the same time. They would order the same dish. They were having the same sex over and over again. They were having the same conversations, questions with one-word answers. And they were starting to drift apart. And I don't think the husband realized it. He kind of was living by this script of, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like, I know what my wife has liked for a really long time. And so why mix it up? Because it's worked this far. And his wife, on the other hand, had started like changing a little bit. She had started going to yoga class and had met this other woman who she really clicked with, and they were becoming really good buddies. And her husband didn't even know her new friend's name. And so, she'd bring her up in conversation, and her husband would be like, wait, who are you talking about? And she was kind of getting bored with the same old date night. She wanted to mix things up and maybe try some new foods and go to some new places, but she didn't really know how to bring it up. And she was not looking forward to sex as much as she used to, because it just wasn't interesting to her. And she maybe had some fantasies or some things that she wanted to try out, but it kind of made her nervous and anxious to talk to her partner about it because she was afraid of upsetting the apple cart. And meanwhile, her husband's sitting here just like not even realizing that things were going poorly, but he couldn't put his finger on why their relationship was getting worse, why he felt like they were drifting apart, and the reason is because his wife was changing and he was not tuned in, and his wife was changing and she was not sharing with him. And because they didn't know each other's worlds, they didn't know that their interests were changing, that the people in their lives were changing, that their stressors were changing, that their desires were changing, they started to drift apart and feel more and more like strangers. And that's kind of what we want to avoid. That's a sign that your I know you root system might be weak. There's a couple other signs I made a list of here. This is not comprehensive, but it's a good way to kind of get a feel for whether or not you need to work on your I know you root system. So I'm just going to read some of these things here because I think that they're important to point out. If there's lots of assuming going on in your relationship, assuming what your partner is thinking or feeling or experiencing, and you're not actually communicating with them and hearing them share their thoughts and feelings and emotions with you, that's a sign that your I know you pillar is weak. If there's a lack of patience with each other, you're kind of snipping at each other, you're not being very patient or forgiving with one another, that could be a sign. There's a lack of empathy in your relationship. If you know somebody's inner world and their experience, it's so easy to have empathy for them. But if you're ignorant, if you don't know what they were thinking or what they were feeling in a moment when they maybe behaved differently than they normally would, or when they were a moment where they were short with you or mean, if you're tuned out of their world, you're way less likely to have empathy and give them the benefit of the doubt. If you're misattributing things, your partner's getting really defensive because the assumptions you're making are way off base. You got a short fuse. You get angry quickly. If you're spending the majority of your time talking about logistics and kids and you're not actually connecting with each other and having meaningful conversations anymore. If you had to buy your partner a present that would delight them, you would have no idea where to start. You don't know your partner's dreams. You can't name your partner's friends. You don't know your partner's stressors. So these are all signs that your I know you root system might be a little bit weak. And you can see how feeling like a stranger to your partner, feeling like you're out of touch, that could damage your communication, right? So like you connect with someone, or how do you connect with somebody who just doesn't get you anymore? How do you open up to somebody who doesn't care enough to keep tabs on your life or your values or your interests or your stresses or the people in your world? How can you expect to have empathy and compassion for somebody that doesn't have a clue what's going on with you? So if you think that your communication would improve if you spent a little bit of time strengthening your I know you root system, I want to see you be like Tim and type a 2 in the chat. If you're already having a light bulb of like, oh, look at that. If I got to know my partner a little bit more and my partner got to know me a little bit more, a lot of these issues that we're dealing with, a lot of the struggles that we're facing would actually probably minimize and our conflict would lower a little bit. Great. I'm seeing lots of 2s. There's a lot of people here who could probably work on their not work on your communication, because that's not what we do. You don't work on your communication. You work on building your friendship. And if you focus on this part of building your friendship, of getting to know your partner better, that's working on your communication. So if that is something that you want to do, I have some tools for you.